Well, hey, everybody. This is Danny Brown, the host of Danny Brown Talks Phoenix. This podcast is brought to you by my real estate company, Myriad Real Estate Group, where we specialize in helping both buyers and sellers here in the greater Phoenix area. And on today's show, I would like to welcome Katt McKinney, who is the Press and Community Relations Director at Black Lives Matter of Arizona and the Director of Marketing and Community Relations at Black Women of Faith. Welcome to the show, Katt.
Thank you, Daniel.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yes.
So I thought, kind of in light of everything that's happening in the world, I don't know when people are going to listen to this, but this is during the COVID pandemic, and then as well as the protests that are happening all throughout not only our country, but throughout the world, and really centered around some injustices that are taking place. So I thought it would be interesting to get somebody on who is well known in the Phoenix area and really active in the Black Lives Matter movement. So I'd love to get to know you a little bit. So could you tell us a little bit about your career and kind of what brought you to this point?
Yes, I can. Well, my name is Katt McKinney, and I do work with Black Lives Matter Arizona, which has become a driving force here in Phoenix, Arizona for victims of police brutality. We've taken several cases to the city of Phoenix. Ed Brown, the most recent, Jacob Harris, but the most recent one that I think people are going to be familiar with is the Drayvon Ames case, which is the case of the family that was the little girl stole baby doll out of the dollar store, and the police pulled the family over and just pretty much terrorized them over that. And so I was involved in that case as well. So we've been involved in some high-profile cases here. And I got into this through ministry, which is interesting. But I went to school. I went to Azusa World Ministries, the Ministry Training Institute there. And I finished my master's degree over there in theology. And I worked in the church. I began working in the church. I'm also a mother of 6 children. So
wow.
Yes, I've raised 6 children. All my children are grown now, thank God. My last son just turned 18 here in April.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. What a thing. I have 7 grandchildren. And so but I raised my children in the church, and so we were in the church a lot. And in church, I learned how to be, communicate with other people about other things. So I fell in love with the word so much I wanted to share it. I started sharing it with other women. We created an organization where we could get out and do some volunteering and stuff. And these were just women from other churches all throughout. I'll say all faiths. And that's how Black Women of Faith came to play. And we were just an organization that wanted to be a part of the community. And we did a lot of volunteering, okay? St. Mary's Food Bank or any of we volunteered for the polo tournament match, the jazz days, different things like that. We loved it. And we just, during the Trayvon Martin era, it is when we decided that we do a public event, because I called the National Action Network because I saw the 50-city vigil, and I didn't see Phoenix on the list. And I called the National Action Network, and they said, sure, go ahead and host it. So Black Women of Faith hosted the Trayvon Martin vigil here during that 50-city vigil with the National Action Network. That led to me actually becoming the president of the National Action Network here. And that took us into a new realm of volunteering. During these times, we developed our nonprofit organizations. I have a woman that has a food bank. We have a domestic violence shelter. We have a after-school program for the children. We're just nonprofit organizations that we developed, and we got a lot of calls for help. And a lot of these calls had to do with some type of involvement with the police. And just different court matters and different things like that. And then especially after they've seen us at the Trayvon Martin vigil, people became very, 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 very quick to think that we were a presence that was helping victims. It actually turned into that during the Mike Brown moment, which is when Black Lives Matter became very popular. It was the hashtag. And like I was saying earlier, Black Lives Matter was not necessarily to us or to anyone, and still really is not an organization, because we believe it's a mantra. It's bigger than an organization, and it's a way for us to communicate. It's sad that, when I first heard the word, I didn't really like it. I said, we know we matter, I didn't look at it, like that, but I do see that and know that it has helped to create a spirit amongst Black people here in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And not just here in the country. And I'm so thankful, let me tell you, because we've been involved in so many different protests and different things, because we want to bring attention to people about certain things. Now, if you have so many people yelling out, hey, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, it has to get someone's attention. You understand? Those are cries for help. Black Lives Matter is a cry for help, because it's definitely a problem, whether everybody's aware of it or not. Police brutality has existed for hundreds of years. And I don't have to prove it. I like that the facts prove it, actually. That something is going on here. We don't want to keep overlooking. So that's what we come up with, when we say we want to be awoke or awake. We want people to recognize that, hey, there's a problem. Mm-hmm. And what can we do? It's not to get violent. We don't want to fight nobody. We want to live in peace on earth like everyone else. But we do want to stop certain things from happening. And why I do this is, I say, it's not for me, it's for my children's children, for years to come. I still have my dad. I still have my grandmother. And I hear the stories. We know what's been happening through the years. It's just crazy that we're dealing with this now. It's something about this COVID-19 though that I think has helped create this environment.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've been saying for a while is that COVID-19 has kind of put a spotlight on a lot of the inequalities that exist in our world. And, I think some prime examples of that are how, the stock market continues to hit record highs while the economy is a dumpster fire and people are out of jobs.
Seriously.
So there's this massive disconnect between what's happening with the elite and the wealthy and what's happening with, your working class. A majority of Americans don't get to participate in the stock market unless they've got a 401k. And I heard a funny comment the other day that the stock market is now a graph of rich people's emotions. So when rich people feel good, the stock market's up.
I like that.
Yeah, right. I liked it too. I did not make that up. I stole it from somebody else. True. But and so I think I think COVID-19 has really put a spotlight on those things. And another example is tying our health insurance to employment. When you've got 40 million people who are all unemployed, that becomes a huge problem. And, you know, education is another one. And so there's a lot of problems within our society that were kind of being swept under the rug. And this pandemic really spotlighted that. And I think that, you know, what's happening in the Black community has been brought to the forefront. Do you think that it's the COVID-19 that is making this time different? Because I know, you know, police brutality has been happening for a long time. So why is this? It feels different this time. Why is it different?
I think COVID-19 is a bit aggressive, you know, and it's created a lot of confusion and with people and of themselves and of their community and of their environment, of where we're living and of being on earth, and, you know, understanding what we have control of and don't. And, you know, I don't know, that's a lot for me to answer. I have a lot of feelings about all this anyway, you know, this great fear. It's a fear.
Yeah.
And what it's done to the community is, okay, some things we have control of and some things we don't. So I think right now we're trying to exercise full control over certain things, and getting police officers to handle people of color a little bit more wiser, I think, is something that we feel, you know, we have control of. We can have control of that. And so we want to take control. Yeah.
Are you saying the Black community specifically?
No, not necessarily just the Black community. We've been yelling this for years and years and years. It's the rest of the community. You know what I'm saying? It's not just us. People are understanding that, hey, wait a minute, you know, this isn't okay, you know, and like I said, it's been going on for so long that it's just something that it was bound to happen, and this created the atmosphere for that. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
A lot of children are on this social media, and that's where everybody's connected right now. And a lot of, you know, the adults too, people are off work. Of course, they're spending a lot more. I'd be interested in seeing those statistics in regards to the social media rates compared to pre-COVID. But anyway, that has a lot to do with it. And it was time for us to have the conversation. So, and it is affecting several people economically, emotionally. It's affecting people's housing needs. I think it's gonna, and if we don't take it serious enough, this is gonna affect our housing market. Okay. It's already affecting people's housing needs. And I think this is one of the most important things too, right now with COVID, is that we have to make sure that people can stay in their homes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a big deal. I'm getting phone calls right now from people who are being, you know, harassed, a letter from landlords, different things like that. And I know that when Ducey gets the executive order to stop the rents being executed on evictions, I think that made a lot of people think that they didn't have to pay rent anymore.
Yeah, a lot of stuff came out really fast without a lot of education around it.
Yes. Without rules, you know, and Yeah, so a lot of statements was made. So I've been trying to keep up with all that then. So this is interesting, the real estate company doing this interview with me, because I've been thinking about that too, and how it's affecting our housing here. People have to have somewhere to live. And I know you might not like what I think about this, but I understand it's a system. I don't think selling land is appropriate like that. I think it should be owned and given. You know what I'm saying? Because people have to have somewhere to live when they hit this earth. Period. And that's the issue California is having in Los Angeles with that big homeless thing going on out there. I was out there right before COVID, and I mean, they gave the homeless people tents to sleep on the sidewalks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw some of the photographs of them painting squares on the street so that people knew where to sleep, so they would be 6 feet apart.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't like any of that. So I'm an advocate for homeless too.
Yeah, we're active. Our team is active with UMOM, and it's a nonprofit organization here in Phoenix geared towards trying to end homelessness through affordable housing. That I think that's really kind of the crux of the problem, is that the cost of living has gotten expensive, and there's not as much affordable housing in Phoenix as there once was. So wage growth hasn't kept up with property values or rents. So when you've got property values and rents continuing to increase, but your wages are either flat or going up very slowly, people can't afford to live. And it really kind of started in the collapse of the housing market in 2008. And while everyone was celebrating up and through January low unemployment, this wage growth, I think there's large segments of the population that weren't participating in that, in all that success. And I think there's a lot of anger there.
Yes, a lot. I'll tell you this, I'm a nurse too. And I started nursing in the year 2000. And my first job was $25. I was like, what? Because I was only making, before then, $6.50. So that was a big jump for me. It changed my lifestyle for me and my children almost, And do you know, in 2016, 16 years later, and I went back. I didn't stay at the same job. Of course, I moved and different things like that. But I went back to look for a job, and it was $25, the same amount. So I'm not complaining. $25 is, a good amount of money. And I know a lot of people that make about that,
Yeah.
But like you said, I know I bought a house on $25. I don't think I qualify for much right now for a house. So it's the same thing with the increase of wages. So that didn't happen for us. Like a lot of people are going to be upset, and they're not celebrating because a lot of things didn't change for people, during those years. And now it's getting worse, so.
Yeah, especially with COVID, so I just put a statistic out the other day that, everybody was really shocked with the last jobs report that came out for May, that the United States actually created 2.5 million jobs. So the unemployment rate, instead of continuing to go up, actually came down, and people were really excited about that. But the unemployment rate increased for the Black community, and it decreased for the white community. So it's the job disparity that exists is still there. So I think that you can get lost in the numbers sometimes.
Yes, this is a new beginning too. But you know what? I think everything with the stock market and with the employment rates, all those are perspective. You know, we're looking at someone's perspective of what jobs are created, because we're talking about what jobs were created, but we still need to talk about how many jobs were lost.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm So, and that's what's the difference there. You can't just start at that number, and you know, you have to go back. And so we're still behind, even though it may have increased or decreased. But and yeah, it's going to be a problem with the Black community, like it's always been a problem with the Black community. This is not new information for us. My family, for generations, several families throughout this country have lived through this for years. We've learned to manage. We don't follow the unemployment rate. We don't follow the stock market. Most of them don't even know what the stock market is. Right. We're just trying to survive and be in peace and live on earth here. We don't want to be uprooted from our homes and evicted every time we turn around. We don't want to be harassed by police in the street over different things, or looked at crazy when you walk in a restaurant, or, you know, going to get a job, you know, you're not going to get it. We have jokes, you know, comedians and stuff from all across. They talk about all these things, and we have to laugh about it, but, you know, we have to learn to survive. And so, you know, that's what we're doing. But I don't want to push people's tempers, you know. We don't want to do stuff like that. And that's why I think right now was such a beautiful thing that COVID set this up, because it's not just Black people anymore that's crying out for this. Like we said, this is the rest of everybody else. And that's why it's so beautiful, because had nobody responded this time, tempers may have flared. You know, you never know the breaking point of people. Mental health issues come into play, PTSD, all kind of things, you know. So the timing was right. And I don't think this is, I think it's a history moment for us, and it's beautiful, but I think it's something that's been long coming, you know, and it should have came a long time ago.
What do a lot of people get wrong about the Black Lives Matter movement, just based on, you know, what they see in the media? You know, you're active in it, you're living it, you're representing it. So what does the public get wrong about Black Lives Matter?
Well, Black Lives Matter, like I want people to know, first of all, to Black people, it's a hashtag, okay? And it's a way for us to communicate our concerns and our needs. Now, what they don't understand, or what they should know, is that it's not a violent movement. It's an aggressive word. It is. The Black Lives Matter, you know, that's aggressive. But it's very, and I'll say it wants to be welcoming. You know, we want to facilitate conversations and communication. And so Black Lives Matter is nonviolent. You know, it's not violent. It is assertive. You know, and it wants to. I think everything to me is spiritual. I just feel like that a lot of times. So, like, if I look at that word, I don't look at it, you know, as a nice word, really. But it is making a statement, you know. So, sure. And it's not to say that nobody else matters, you know. It's just to say, hey. So
what's the response when somebody says Black Lives Matter and they respond with, well, don't all lives matter? What?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what one of my responses, I changed the whole name to All Black Lives Matter. How about that? So my response, we know that all lives matter, but shouldn't we focus on the lives that are at risk at some point? Okay, if you look at the statistics, and I've talked to several people here in our community. I did a police forum in Tempe, and I debated Bill Montgomery, who was the district attorney at that time, and we ended up developing a very good relationship. So he's one of my good friends, and I've learned a lot from him. He learns a lot from me too. Now, Black Lives Matter is important because there's evidence that shows that many of these lives are not being addressed. So it's not to say that, nobody else matters. That's that aggressive word in Black. Black is an aggressive word to a lot of people anyway. Like, I was just watching Muhammad Ali talk about that. Everything Black was bad. He said black male, he said the black cat that represented, bad luck, he said, and then he said, but everything white was good. The snow was white, clear and white. So he was talking about just that word. So that word in Black Lives Matter, we know is a word. But it's not to be aggressive. We just want to make some help. This is our generation. This is not our parents anymore. We have different mindsets now. Things are different. I'm from California, but people were never a color to me. Okay, never. It was just who they were. They were just different people. We're all different. But when I came to, I went to Oklahoma, and I went to college in Oklahoma at Langston University at HBCU. I was very taken back by the fact that we thought there was so much difference between us and everybody else. And then I started seeing the differences and started understanding what was going on. And that put a little sharpness in my heart about, no, we need to make sure things are not like that. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but a lot of people are, but the Phoenix Police Department is the #1 killing police department in the country. And they have been since 2017. And because we have such a high instance of this, because a lot of times it's not brought to public's attention. That makes us even push more, towards, or it made me push a little more harder towards what is the problem here,
I think a lot police in general are put in really hard positions.
They are. They are.
They are. A lot of them suffer from PTSD. What's that?
That too. Most of the police officers are good people.
Yeah. Yeah. They're tasked with dealing with a lot of things that they're not necessarily trained to deal with, mental health issues. They're always the first ones to go in. And, it seems like, and that's where I kind of, the chants and the things that are kind of going around about defund the police. My wife and I were joking that Democrats always have a bad way of branding things because it just immediately defund the police. That sounds terrible. Like, why would you want less police? Why would you want to not give them what they need to keep us all safe? And it gets kind of lost in just that word of defunding them, when I think that it's a better conversation to have about reallocating sources so that they're not the ones who are called in to deal with, nonsense things that maybe a social worker might be better at doing, or that are actually trained to deal with those situations. And you think of policemen as, at least when I was a kid, you thought of policemen as heroes and superheroes, and from my understanding, they're not necessarily very well versed in hand-to-hand combat and disarming situations. So I think that there's
exactly.
Yeah, it's just a big problem.
It is, and I don't like the word either, defund police, but we don't need all of them. Like there has to be levels of response teams, and we developed that a mental health response unit within the city of Phoenix when I was dealing with a case with Michelle Cousseau, who was the lady who had the hammer and was shot in the chest. And so out of that came our mental health unit over there and for the city of Phoenix. We need the correctly trained people to respond to people who have mental health issues, you know. And so, as I said, that's just one of the areas. When we really get into breaking this whole thing down, we will understand that the police are necessary, but there are levels of response teams that they have to be put into, like you said, because of training and other things. There need to be certain levels of response. I have a 12-point plan, which we put out. I've given it to 4 police chiefs here in Arizona: Mesa, Tempe, Glendale, and Phoenix. And all of those police chiefs have our 12-point plan. 12-point plan are things that we believe that police can do to help facilitate peace within the communities that they're in. And my goal is to get that across to all the police precincts, not just in this state, but across the country. And that's one of the things we're going to be pushing for. So Black Women Faith, we will be going to Oklahoma this weekend, and we will be heading to DC. And to exactly push push our 12-point plan. So I don't think it's necessary to defund them. I just think it's going to be time to reorganize that whole system. And we definitely are going to have to work on the guidelines for certain things like that. You know, we were that karate chokehold is one of the things we've been fighting for. Phoenix gave it up the other day, and I did an interview about that, and that was very important. I said the next thing is the bullets. Because let me say too, I don't think anybody has the right to kill anybody.
Yeah, I think as a society, we've put a lot behind the Second Amendment, right? The right to bear arms, and I think where our country faces challenges is that we are armed to the teeth. Everybody owns guns, especially everybody in Phoenix. And, so police are in a tough position because I would guess that majority of the situations that they find themselves in, people probably have guns. So, I don't know if taking guns away from police when everybody else is also armed.
I didn't say guns. I think bullets.
Bullets.
I think yes. Even if they are shot at, because they know this is part of their job that they took on this when they joined the force, that don't necessarily make them. It doesn't make that they're okay to shoot back with the same kind of bullets. Like I have a big thing about these bullets, and like they're using bullets that really should be outlawed because they're known to hit people in the back and spread. They're not using buckshots or pellets. They won't even use a real bullet on an animal. It's illegal to do that. But then we give them the right to use them on people. So we have to just really break all this down. What's right and what's wrong. It's not the old way of doing things anymore. We have to do things a new way that's going to facilitate our higher minds and mentalities in these moments.
Yeah.
And it's a transitional thing, and it's just we have to, it's going to be a process, and it's not going to be overnight, but it's going to take. Why did we have to tell them to outlaw the karate chokehold when it's a chokehold known to kill?
Yeah, I mean, it probably took
them not to kill people.
Yeah.
That's why they're not responding right in these different situations. Because most of the time, these people don't even have guns. I don't have a gun. Nobody I know in my family. My dad might. I don't know anybody in my family that has a gun. So we don't have a lot of guns. Maybe people and the criminals that they're running across in the streets, but that's not the majority of their job, catching criminals all day. They're dealing with domestic violence calls. You know, they're dealing with the dog up the street. You know, their calls are of a wide variety. If we really break down those 911 phone calls, there's not always a level of response of what they're trained for as far as the killing instincts that are aggravated. Those they don't have to respond. Those people don't have to respond in all of the situations. So of course, if they say somebody got a gun, that shouldn't surprise you. This is an open carry state.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of guns in Phoenix and Arizona and throughout the country. So it's, again, I think police are just put in a tough situation. And like you said, they're getting called to deal with, you know, lost dogs and domestic disputes and those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
That are probably not what you need a police officer.
Not a bank robbery.
Right. Yeah. So if you save the police,
murder.
Yeah, for the more dangerous stuff, and you know, use different resources.
Over giving them writing tickets on cars. That's, you know, there's a lot that needs to be broke down on how to defund. So it's not defunding. I think it's just going to be reorganizing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, reorganizing that's necessary. Yeah.
Well,
we have higher intelligence now, so we can do that.
These are tough conversations to have, absolutely, and I think it's going to take, you know, both sides of the aisle, and you know, police and Black Lives Matter and the community all being involved to have these conversations. And what I really hope is that they will be conversations and they won't be all-out fights. I think our society has gotten very divisive, and it's very easy for us to, you know, get in with our into our silos and into just our little tiny communities and insulate ourselves from having these conversations, to where you get stuck in an echo chamber and everybody's, you know, agreeing with you instead of having tough conversations to help move us forward.
Yeah. Well, we set the tone for that.
There you go. So where do you kind of see
tough, but good. I don't feel judged or anything. I love your style. So.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm just trying to learn, and I don't try to, you know, I don't want to necessarily pick a side. I'm not, you know, I'm not a registered Republican. I'm not a registered Democrat. I think they're all a bunch of crooks trying to steal from us. So.
Yeah, we got other things to think about. We're not going to argue with those folks about that.
That's right. So where do you see the future for Black Lives Matter in Phoenix specifically?
Oh, well, in Phoenix specifically, our group is going to, we're active, and we just started a conversation with the DPS. And what we're going to do is create a citizen review board for that. And so we're going to be active in that. Like I said, we're taking this nationally, though. So I wanted to give you what we're doing here in Phoenix, but we're going to the national level with this, because we feel like that the state-ran police departments need federal oversight. You know, the Department of Justice is here; they should be having more oversight. You know, so we're pushing for a lot of things, and those conversations are going to be held all throughout this week. I know there are several Black leaders that are going to be getting together, communicating right here before this weekend with the Trump rally going on in Oklahoma. And hopefully we'll come to a consensus on what we're going to do as far as moving forward. And I'm telling you, I'm thankful. I cried, you know, in moments, because we've been saying this for a long time, and finally getting the rest of the world to wake up, you know, has been like a monumental moment in history. And we'll look back on this in 50 years and be like, hey, it's going to be just like the civil rights movement, you know, but I think a lot of good things are going to come out of this. So
I hope you're right. And I hope that the time is different and it continues, and that real change kind of comes from all of this. So if people listening to this want to get active, what's the best way for them to do that?
They could catch me right at on all my social medias are Katt McKinney, so I'm there. And then also I have a Black Woman Faith pages. I have my phone number, which I give to everybody, because they can always call or text in time of trouble, 480-363-1090. That's my phone number. And you can also email me, blackwomanfaith@gmail.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure.
I thank you for giving me that time, Daniel.
Yeah. And we'll make sure we'll put all your contact information in the show notes. So I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk to us and explain to us the movement here in Phoenix. And I know it's tough and change is hard and messy. And I really hope that positive things come out of it in the end.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for that. We'll pray. We're praying for that.
Yes.
Okay. And stay safe in these times out here too, with this COVID-19. I feel so selfish almost having the conversation of Black Lives Matter when we have this COVID going on, but it was time. So, everything in God's time and God's plan and in history as it unfolds, I'm just happy to be on the right side of history.
It is, you mentioned that it is tough with COVID-19, and, we just came out of a lockdown where the government forced us to close all of our businesses and stuff. And, and then to kind of go into the protests. 2020 has been a very tumultuous year for sure.
I like the word.
Yeah.
Yes. Very much so.
You continue to stay safe and healthy, and thank you again for taking the time to sit down with me.